2:30 on ESPN Plus. Also coming out in about 30 minutes, so hold it until then. The game with Texas State will be a 4 o'clock kickoff on ESPN Plus. Sunbelt will release that at noon today. So, Coach, we'll let you start off with an opening statement, and then we'll take questions.
Another one possession game in the fourth quarter here that we just come up short in, and I think the reality of it, I think kind of 2 weeks in a row, it comes down to red zone scoring. This time we're able to score, just not touchdowns, and you have a couple turnovers that shifted the momentum there. The second one, certainly I need to manage a little bit better. The first one was unfortunate. It was the right decision, right read. The route depth and timing wasn't perfect. It's a really good play by the corner, and it's unfortunate it happens. But managing the game and the flow of it, that's on me, and certainly maybe trying to do too much to push it down the field on the second one. But that was kind of a momentum swing we couldn't come back from. With that being said, we were able to get the ball in the red zone a couple times, get behind the sticks, and they had a good 3rd and long plan down there. 3rd and 8 from the 12 is a tough spot to be. A couple times, one time we tried to run it to set up a 4th down conversion and don't get anything on the run, so have to kick it anyway. I thought our guys up front on the offensive line and tight ends, I thought they played really hard. Lost another old lineman in that game and had a guy have to step in there who, hadn't gotten many reps and was probably a little bit ahead of his time, but he played really hard, and those guys are straining and they're battling up front. Lunch Winfield, I think, obviously, gave us a chance on offense to move the football, made some good decisions. Couple he wants to have back, but made some good decisions, played with a lot of heart, a lot of effort, led the team really well. Certainly it was good to get Shelton back. He made an immediate impact. And even the one that we missed on the fade that, would have been a touchdown the second possession, it backed up coverage and cleaned some things up for him a little bit. So, going back on the road this week, told the team, our backs are against the wall here, and that's the reality. With 4 left, any postseason hopes that you got, it's you're in the playoffs now. One at a time. You got to win. Got to win each one to have a chance to do it. And that's something that that's just where we're at right now. So, kind of having a hard time shaking that injury bug a little bit. Lost a couple more guys there last week, but hopefully we get a couple back. And we got to keep moving forward. And that was kind of the message yesterday. If you keep holding on to what's behind you, you're never going to be able to reach for what's in front of you. And for us, I think the reality of it is, look, what's happened. You got to learn from it, move forward, but you got to get excited about the challenges that are ahead.
So we know Caden and Colin, anybody else, Matt, what's the update on them, other than the ones we already know? Was there anybody else injured?
No, that's the 3. Yeah, that didn't finish the game. So, Caden is in concussion protocol. Colin Jacob had surgery this morning. He'll be out for the year. And Matt Broussard is most likely going to be out this week. I don't see a scenario where he can come back in and play. Jalen Clark didn't finish the game, but we feel like we're I don't know if it's hopeful, doubtful, probable. I don't know what it is. We're hoping he'll be able to play. I'd say hopeful. I don't know if that's on the sheet, but we're hoping he'll be able to play this week. So yeah, there was a few more this week.
Does anything change about your approach? I know if you run the table, you can still get into a bowl, like you just said. So is it still everything here and now, or does anything change in terms of how you approach who you play and how you play them and all that right now?
Well, no, I think right now it's still about here and now, and about getting there. And I think I think you got to go try to find a way to go win this game. Is really what it's all about. You got to try to go run the table and try to get our team there. So, we got to continue to. We've had a lot of guys have gotten opportunities this year. A lot of guys have gotten opportunities to play for reasons that maybe we didn't expect. It's the ones that are playing good are the ones that got to keep playing.
The run game hasn't been kind of where it wants to be. I know a lot has to do with a lot of old linemen being injured. How do you handle that heading into this week?
This question comes up every week. We got who we got. We're going to get them ready to go play, and we're going to do the best we can. I still think we're running the football effectively. I don't know, ran for, 170 something yards. We got to score in the red zone, I think, is our bigger issue right now. And part of that's staying ahead of the sticks, which some of that's the run game. But, look, it's not all just on the O-line. Last week we had at least 3 or 4 runs where we get the ball to the edge and we don't block the trap corner, which is something we worked on all week. Well, that's on the receivers, and it was different guys that are supposed to get there and block the trap corner and get the running back to the safety. That's 12 yards off the ball. So, we got to continue to be creative in it. I thought, we had some stuff that we got it to the free hat and we didn't execute in certain situations. So, we're going to have to probably be a little more creative than what it was, which is what we have been with the quarterback runs. We can't get in 12 and just run tight zone like we typically do, like we like to do, and run counters. We got to spread some things out and do it. So, that's the challenge, but, there's no, I don't know, there's no quick fix for it.
When the running backs weren't having success, I was a little surprised that Lunch was able to run as effectively as he was at times. When you saw the film, what allowed that to happen?
Well, I think, you add the running back to the mix as a blocker is really what we're doing. And there ain't many running backs that are like that now. There's not many running backs that are that selfless where, Bill and Zylan, Steven, didn't matter who it was, we were not having, we were getting 3 and 4. When Lunch was going, we were creating some explosives. Most running backs, when you ask them to go block for somebody else, they're going to turn their nose up at it. They're going to pout. And those guys just go out there and block and throw it up in there and do anything they can to try to help us create some offense. So, I think that says a lot about them and their selflessness. You're adding an extra guy to the run scheme whenever you have the running backs as part of it, and they're doing a hell of a job blocking. I think it's a little bit, there are a lot more variables on some of these quarterback runs for the defense than it is whenever you just turn and hand the ball off. Even when you have an RPO on it, when you're at quarterback, you can empty the box, and you have these RPOs on the outside that if they don't cover, you're taking gimmies, and so by nature you lighten up the box. So I think it's allowed us to do some of that. I think we had, some plays that were a little bit unique, for him in the way that we did it. But again, it comes down to running backs executed extremely well in the blocking scheme. And, a lot of it, like I said, we got them where we needed to get the ball to. We just didn't execute overly well on the perimeter at times. And that's, something we worked all week that, was certainly a frustration point at the end of the game, and watching it on tape is just disappointing because it's things that we worked on with guys that we know are capable of doing it and didn't get it done. And I think when you have Zylan, you have these guys, Bill, those guys that if you can get them to the safety, and we had times where it was going to be 10, 11, 12 yards between them and the safety, you got a really good chance for a big play. The one time Bill rolls it off the table, we end up getting the thing blocked and we get all the way around the edge. So, that was kind of by design. We knew that was probably the way they were going to try to play it. We knew they were going to pirate the edge. We knew they were going to do a lot of that stuff. We knew where the ball was going to go. We just didn't execute out there at times, and that's part of it. At receiver, if you catch 5 balls in a game, that's a hell of a day. The other 50 snaps that you play, you better do something without the ball. And we had a couple of them. It was unfortunate where they were right at the point of attack, and we didn't get it done.
Your running backs, the way they block, is that an acquired ability? Because like most kids coming out of high school, they haven't had to do that.
Yeah, it is. Zylan played quarterback, so he's never blocked anybody in his life, right? Bill Davis was, he was on a good team in high school, but he was the bell cow. He was 2A school that he toted the rock every time. So it's definitely an acquired skill. I think one of the hardest things for running backs to do when they get to college is to learn pass protection, not just learn it, but be able to execute it. Well, now you're adding another dimension to it. You're talking about run blocking, at the point of attack. And yeah, it's something that I think, Coach Burge does a really good job drilling it, working it, teaching it, but it takes willingness. And like I said, there's not a whole lot of running back rooms where you have guys that are as talented as they are, where, we are having a hard time of running the ball in a traditional sense right now. They're willing, more than willing, to go out there and find ways to go help and go find ways for us to create offense. And, that's the name of the game. We got to keep driving the ball. We got to keep moving the ball. And now we just got to finish some drives. So, it's acquired, but it takes a willingness to do it, and those guys have the willingness.
Coach, when you look at how your defense has been able to create a lot of turnovers, like how much does it help as you're, working through those things that you're talking about with running the ball conventionally, that you can get extra possessions
Yeah.
to try to, have those opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, it's, anytime you steal possessions is good. We had a turnover on downs on the 4th down. Certainly we had the pick that Cortland got back down to the 1-yard line. I mean, those are huge plays in the game. The pick allowed us to be able to take the lead right there. The turnover on downs got us the ball back, in a 1-possession game. I think it might have been tied at the time, whenever it happened. So, they're giving you an opportunity there, and that's the thing. I mean, it's really important. We're not scoring points the way we want to or need to on offense. We were able to sustain drives the other night, 15, 16 play drives, which was really good. Just got to go cap them off, with an exclamation point instead of a period, and that's the thing that we got to do. But stealing those possessions is big. We were able to get a touchdown off the turnover Saturday night. The week before, we got 0 off of 2. So that's got to be the standard, though, right? When they steal those possessions and they get you the ball, we got to go score, and we got to get points off every one of them.
And then just kind of looking at the overall landscape of college football, like a lot of pressures on head coaches as of recently. Coach Napier being let go at Florida, Brian Kelly recently last night. Could you just speak to like the pressures being in the head coaching seat and all of those things that come with it, as the outside pressures are spoken about?
The pressure from the outside is very minimal compared to what's on the inside. The pressure day after day is to be able to lead your guys into something that they can't see. The pressure day after day is to provide hope when there's not a lot there. The pressure day after day is to have the right words, when it's really something that's not very explainable. Whenever I accepted this job, I knew and I know very well what the expectations are and what the standards are. And, it's a results-driven industry, and it's, excuses are not something that, that are accepted. And that's part of what the business is, and I understand that. But, I feel more pressure about making sure I do things the right way inside of our building and making sure that everyone knows that they have a lot more value to this organization, to the society, than they do just as football players. And because things aren't working out right now, because some of the things that, haven't gone the way that we planned on them going, doesn't mean they're doing things wrong. They're working really hard, and we're not getting the results that we want. And some of it's in our control, some of it maybe is out of it. But the reality of it is that, I know the character in the building, and my job is to make sure that I lead in the correct way. Stress and pressure and negativity, all that stuff can't roll downhill, and it can't come from me because there's enough of it on the outside. So my job is to block it out and keep our organization going in the right direction and continuing to work the way that we need to work so we go out there and have a chance to win every week.
Overall, how's the team doing? Going on the road and losing that game at Troy could be a big demoralizing moment for the team. How have they responded since then?
I mean, we'll see. Yesterday we got back, watched the tape, do what we always do. And, certainly they're tired of coming up short. And no one's more competitive than I am. What's the options, and that's what I told them. I know what happens when you quit. That's already written. If you keep busting your tail and you keep working really hard, man, you go try to flip this thing around. In the last 4 games, you go out there and you continue to do what we've done. You continue to fight, continue to play really hard, and, you got to believe that every one of them, you just got to make a couple plays in some situations and get over the hump. But these guys work too hard to give up, and that's the thing about it is, everyone thinks, people don't want to win, and you hear people say stupid crap like that all the time. Oh, they don't want to win. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. All right? These guys have busted their tail since January. This has been one of the hardest working groups I've been around. And whenever everything falls apart, we got 8 old linemen that are out right now. Not one of them in that building has said a word about it. Not one person has complained about what we don't have. Not one person has said a thing about the problems we've had. These guys are going to bust their rear ends for this team and for this university for the rest of the year. That's what they do, and that's what the vibe is in the building.
When you watched the film of the game, did their quarterback just play that well? Because the 9 of 13, it seemed like they always had an answer on conversions.
He played really well. You know, I mean, they made a couple nice catches. You know, there was one that was a 3rd and 3, and we're in man coverage, and Brent, who's our best cover guy right now, is playing really well. He's all over the dang receiver. I mean, the quarterback throws it. I mean, it's bang bang. It's on the shoulder. I mean, his hand swipes. The guy catches it. I mean, you know, there was some tight ones. There was a couple of 3rd downs, and I'm not, you know, Jim would say that calls he wish he could have back. You know, there was one on a 3rd and 9. We thought they were in a different personnel grouping. The call we had, we ended up having a linebacker push out over a receiver that they converted on a 3rd and 9 on an easy one. You know, there was one in the red zone where it was 3rd and 8 and our coverage was too soft, you know, and that's part of being young, you know, understanding kind of what the down and distance is, understanding you're in the red zone, you don't have as much field to defend, played a little bit tighter. So there was a couple of things that, you know, certainly there's always things we can do a little bit better. The kid played really good though, man. I think he's tough as nails too. You know, one of the 3rd downs, a touchdown, the first one he had, we lost leverage in coverage. You know, I mean, we don't get out in our coverage, we don't drop to the right landmark, so when he breaks, we're not there to get him on the ground. He ends up turning a touchdown on 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5. So, you know, there's always some of it is us, but I thought he, I don't know, I was impressed with the kid. I thought he was really tough. Thought he stood in there. I thought he operated and executed really well. You know, the one thing was good, we were able to eliminate the shots. They've been hitting some shots down the field every game. We were able to kind of take that away. They had one for an explosive, you know, on the tight end on the over route. Where we just ended up a little bit outside of the coverage, and the pressure that we had called was on the. We didn't execute the pressure exactly the way we wanted to, so it gave him a little bit more time. But you know, I mean, thought the kid played really well. You know, threw the ball well. You know, their receivers make plays, you know, which they're supposed to do. You know, but yeah, I mean, some of it is, you know, always some things you could do a little better. But I thought the kid played really well.
If the health stays the same at the quarterback position or gets better, will the amount of wins and losses you have the rest of the way impact how you use them, or are you you're gonna go into every game like you're going into the last 2 or 3 with your quarterback play?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to live in what ifs. You know what I mean? It's hard to live in hypotheticals right now. You know, I mean, we're just worried about going win this one. You know, that's something that, you know, we'll have to kind of figure out as things go on. But you know, I think the way Lunch plays, I don't know. You know, he's the first one. You know, every time we get the ball in a critical situation, he wants the ball. You know, it's hard to, you know, it's hard to take that out of him, and it's hard to take it away from him because that's just what he is and who he is. So, you know, we're gonna try to go get this one. You know, whatever we got to do, and we'll figure out, you know, what we got to do the rest of the way. That's best for our team. You know, when we get there.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, Coach.
That's good.